Okay guys, today we're going to discuss call-only campaigns is what they're called. It's a special kind of campaign on Google Ads that you can run basically where you're just paying for phone calls to your business. I'm going to explain are those worth anything? Of course, the hint is here, yes, they are. And what circumstances they're worth something to you, why you should use call-only campaigns versus sending people to your website and have them call you there, so that you can use it for your business. I'm going to give you a couple case studies as well as to where call-only campaigns work great for me on campaigns that I ran, as well as ones that you think it might have worked traditionally or a lot of people have tried, but you can actually get more results running regular old standard search campaigns. So I'm going to go over all that stuff today. When it's ultimately good to use call-only campaigns, as far as I've found in the last 10 years or so that they've had call-only campaigns, and when it's actually wrong to use those campaigns, in my opinion, of course, which just means I'm always looking to make the most money. So I'm going to tell you about where you can use the call-only campaigns to make more money, and where I've made more money and where it ultimately makes sense, the type of businesses where this is ultimately going to work and how to set it up. So anyway, call-only campaigns. Now, the first thing I'm going to do on this particular video is to clear the air a little bit about some of these terms: call-only, click-to-call, call extensions. What are the differences between all of these? I know people commonly get these mixed up, so I'll just first stop there and get that out of the way first for us. Now, the differences between a call-only campaign by itself, it's a special kind of campaign, as I just got done describing, where you can have a phone number of your business there at the top of Google, and that is actually going to be a replacement of a standard search campaign where you're going to have a text-based ad. And you cannot have a phone number because it's actually against Google's policies to have your phone number in at least the main part of the ad itself. They stopped doing that about 5 years ago or so. Click to call. Now that's not a type of a campaign. When people say click to call, what they're referring to is when somebody on a mobile device clicks on a phone number, or maybe on your website even, clicks on your phone number to get the phone number itself imported into their phone app on their cell phone, which then obviously is the first step to actually giving you a call, because they could then hit the send button. So that's what the click to call is. And then the call extensions. So going back to what I said before about it's against Google's rules to have your phone number in your campaign ad if you're using regular search campaigns versus call only. Well, you can actually put a phone number in what is called the ad extension. There's a special ad extension where you can do what is called call extensions right there at your regular search ad. So if they're really wanting a phone number, this is where Google will allow you to stick it. And people can, like the click to call as I just mentioned here, that's the whole concept there. Of course, some people can write it down, but that's not why you traditionally do it. You do it because if on a mobile device someone just wants to call right away, they can click on the number, import it to their phone app, and they're done. But for the most part, the most calls you get from that call extension, by the way, is people who already are in contact with you and they're checking status, or you're calling again, like branded traffic. It's not real big on new traffic coming in. People, when they want, they'll ultimately find out who they're going to work with for the first time, they click on the ad and go to the site for a reason. They judge a book by its cover. They look at everything there. There's a whole bunch of things you got to do right in order to get enough response from that page, namely, i.e. calls or people who fill out the form to be profitable with the campaign. I won't get into all those things. I have other videos that talk about the psychological elements that a landing page needs to have to work. But with the call-only campaign, you can actually bypass all of that in circumstances in certain markets where it works, where you don't have to have a landing page at all, which is partially, I want to say most of the attraction of using call-only campaigns, and why Google made call-only campaigns, because a landing page it's not only difficult to do that, but more so it takes time consuming. And in the situation where somebody doesn't have a website, well, you have to have a, excuse me, you do have to have a website to do call-only campaigns, that's for sure. But where you have a crappy website and like maybe no landing page, and people think that they have a landing page, this allows people to bypass, have to have something proper to send people to, as there's no way to go to the website from that call-only ad. There's just the phone number. They will either call it by typing it in on their home phone or something, or their cell phone manually, or they'll click on the number to click, have import to their phone app, and then call it that way. Just as a side note about the call-only campaigns, you technically have, the way that has to work is you got to have the same number in your call-only ad that's on your website, so they can prove that's your number. But other than that, you could have a blank page for the website that you set up with a call-only ad and just a phone number on it, and they would let you run that, and could get by with that if it was the right market. There are certain situations where this works, and certain situations where it does not. As the point of this video is going to cover that, but you do have to have that by default. And actually, what I do, regardless of what we're doing here, I use a company called CallRail to track the call performance from our calls. Some of this actual call tracking, is what it's called, can be done through Google's own interface, through their conversions menu. I don't like to do that, and please forgive me, Google. I don't like to rely and have Google tell me how many calls I'm getting from the person who's selling me the ads. Which I'm not implying that they lie per se, but I want, just to be sure, I want to have a separate company telling me what the results are. I always use Google Analytics. I break my own rule there. But with CallRail, you can listen to all the call recordings. It records all the calls. You can come back and play it later on, and so on and so forth. And you can see if the person who clicked, did it actually come through? Which, by the way, with the call-only ads, you're paying for people who click on the phone number. So it's free if they just see your phone number, type it into their phone manually and call it. What you're paying for is when somebody clicks to call to get imported into their phone app, but that doesn't guarantee you a call. A lot of times people get confused by that, because they could import it into their phone app and then not actually call the number. And so what I found is potentially you only get half the calls per how many people click on the phone app number. And I think that some of that has to do with, obviously, accidental clicks. So when you are paying $25 for a click on a call-only ad, you're probably paying really $50 a call, just by my experience. Again, as another side note there. But anyway, back to the tracking specifically, I'll set up a designated number for my call-only campaign so that when from that ad, I can see how many calls I'm actually getting, not just how many people clicked on my number, and were those calls very good. And then actually, because I also evaluate whether a campaign works by looking at how many of the calls turned into sales, and then taking the revenue data and then importing it into my ad account so I can see what keyword they typed in when they bought and how much the ROI was for certain keywords, and so on and so forth, to optimize the campaign. But also just to see overall, is it insanity for me to spend money on this, and is it going to be self-financing, and that it makes an 8-to-1 or greater return, basically, that you typically need to make a campaign self-finance itself. If I do have call extensions, by the way, I will also set up a tracking number that's separate. On the search campaigns where I'm using call extensions, I'll use one tracking number. If I have call-only campaigns, I'll set up as another tracking number in CallRail so I can track them separately. Just gives you for me, the best, I would recommend to you as well, the best awareness about what's going on. And so, anyway, so just as a default thing, if you're going to try call only, you definitely should track through CallRail what's going on, because again, it's a little funny to track and see how those work. But so why would you use call only then specifically versus the regular old search campaigns for your brand? That actually comes in. So ultimately, so going back to what I was saying before, the best way to put this is people use the website to judge whether or not you should be trusted, and maybe if you do certain things or where you are and so on and so forth, to where if you're in a market where you think that it's debatable as to that information on your website, is it a make or break? If if it's going to break you, more than 10% of people are going to want to see your website as a prerequisite to decide if they're going to call you or not, then you don't use call-only campaigns. You use regular campaigns, but if on the flip side, you can use call-only. The other opposite kind of thing, or second reason I should say that you use call-only campaigns versus search campaigns, if it's going to give you an outside-the-box strategy that's going to give you an edge. I've said many times on the videos that I create that PPC is like war. You can't, and because of how expensive Google ads are anymore, you can't just show up and do what everybody else does anymore and expect to make a lot of money. There's 10-20% of the people who make 80% of the money. Some people that just tread water, and a bunch that don't make anything because maybe they aren't tracking it or whatever. A lot of people don't track their results. And kind of going back to when you're going to use this thing. So remember my train of thought here again. There's a situation, where people don't care if they go to the website. That's one thing. But then also at the same time, if you have a bunch of search ads there, the call-only ad just being there because it's unique and novel, that may actually get you better results. The same thing on the flip side. If it's just call-only ads, you can do the opposite, which is the search ad, and potentially get more attention. You're going to be the purple cow, as Seth Godin actually says in his Purple Cow book, that if you were driving along the side of the road and you saw a purple cow, you would stop and look at it just because it's different. And in the advertising model, where in terms of formula that you use to make ads that work, AIDA, the first A in that model is attention. You have to get someone's attention before they can even read your ad. So that no matter how good your ad is, if it doesn't stand out enough in that 4-pack of ads there, you're not going to make any money anyway. And because click-through rate is directly related to how much you're paying for a click due to Google's quality score system, that's half of the equation right there. So anyway, but what does that mean then? So instances where I've used the call-only campaigns where they really worked. Now, going back to what I was saying before, for this, where I use call-only, which I will admit then it is rare that I'll use call-only campaigns. But in the situation where the call-only campaigns were unconventional were the times where it worked. Times where people weren't using the call-only, but we could figure out how to use it. And of course, they didn't really need to go to the website, and that we could use the ad to stand out. So a combination of those two things is really what you need, in my opinion, to get call-only ads to work. Novelty, and it's not a deal breaker if someone sees the website necessarily, because what you're offering in your market is ultimately thought of as sort of a commodity item or service, which is where that not needing to see the website comes in. And where you're, in order to get them, to discard needing to see your website in order to call you in the first place. But two markets here where I used this specifically before, the first of which is the drug rehab market. In that space, a lot of people are running, we have a website and a landing page, like here's our local clinic. A lot of people don't know in that business, people a lot of times fly to, like if you're going to go through drug withdrawal, you want to do it in paradise if you can. Florida is a common place, Southern California, they'll fly in, so they market nationwide. But if you think about, going back to my previous video I just did about, buyer's guides, you think about, for that particular market being like $30 a click. Things are different today, of course. $30 a click, where what can we do potentially to market on keywords that may not go after like drug rehab centers, and that keyword being $30? Is there a different keyword that's right one step before they type in that in terms of the information or buying terms like how to find the right drug rehab and then advertising there? That's one way to do it. But in our situation, and in that particular market, people search for all kinds of weird things like drug rehab center for someone who takes, pain medications, whatever. And so it's like a combination between they're looking for the center, so it being an outright commercial buying term, and they're looking for information how to become a good buyer, which I call buyer term. And so that particular keyword's not $30. It's, maybe $10. It's still kind of expensive, but in that particular situation, we had the call only ad that we set up, that we tested, and we just said, and based upon what the type we're searching for, if they're taking, Oxycontin or whatever, problem with Oxycontin, question mark, basically is what you can do there. Or in this case, you just have your phone number. You, of course, get text with the phone number. So that would be like the phrase, then you have your phone number, and then they call. And in that situation, you got to know when you use call-only campaigns as well. Because you don't have the website there, you have to do a lot more over the phone just to get the business. If you have a crafty salesperson answering the phone, this is where you can get your big advantage. Other people are going to go to the website, and all they're going to look kind of the same. People think of it kind of as a commodity. There's nationwide, potentially, like I said, because people can go nationwide. There's, 500 places to choose from. I'm totally confused now. Well, I have a problem with the Oxycontin. I'm not quite sure if I want to go in or not, if this is going to help me. And that ad looks interesting. They said they're going to help me with my specific problem. So they would call, and then they would have a drug counselor they would shoot the call to instead of like a receptionist. I know people have tried this after this that I mentioned this to, and they'll try to have it go to the receptionist. And they're like, "Hi, welcome to, XYZ drug rehab center," and that's not going to work. But go to a rehab specialist, which at that point in time they can say, "Yeah, I saw your ad. You do Oxycontin, whatever," and then they just have a nice soft conversation for 20 to 30 minutes with that person. And then they slowly shift that person over to being a customer or a patient, if you will. So in that particular situation, the phone number stood out because, like I was saying, it's novel in that situation and where it worked. But you got to have the right sales team behind that. You got to have a trained person who knows how to systematically take that person from sort of lukewarm to fully sold. And but it doesn't have to be where you're working with lukewarm leads in order to get this to work. But for me, that was the situation where call only got me an edge on the search ad specifically and give you evidence of it. So that's just one thing that may or may not apply to your market. The second instance where I use call only more so that isn't working with just kind of lukewarm leads or traffic, if you will, was in home inspections. In that particular case, when somebody's looking for a home inspection, you're in that case, they are also thinking of home inspection as like a commercial thing. You're looking for a home inspection. You just want to hire one as fast as you can, right? So in that particular situation, we remove friction by not making them go to the website and have to decipher, everybody's looks the same again. You need a home inspection, 24/7, call. And then the phone number, bang. We make it easier. You can always do better, but you can also make it easier to buy. That's the other way to always have an edge when you do PPC as far as your offer itself or what you're offering. And so in that case, they call the cost, the click-through rate now in terms of, so by the way, the call-only ads are generally cheaper, much cheaper than the cost of the click. So if you can get people to call at the same rate that other people are clicking, you have now a major advantage. So what this did, because there was no other phone numbers there that they could easily call, and then also know that they're going to get immediate service 24 hours a day, which even 24 hours a day would have still worked, just not to the same degree. We got that person to call us, our ad, and just cut out all the BS, if you will, of having to evaluate and do all this other stuff. To them, hey, a home inspection is a home inspection. I can ask the person on the phone, do you have, accreditation or whatever small thing that they would need to know. But instead of having it's work going through a website and reading and reviewing all this stuff, let's just talk to the person now. So that was another instance where specifically call-only ads worked. Now, moving on here, for the last thing, so I mentioned when it's wrong to use these call-only ads. Now we're going to get into where it was wrong to use the call-only ads and in a couple instances where specifically it would be surprising to you why the call-only ads wouldn't work. So I gave you the 2 or 3 basic reasons why when you use the call-only, if they see your product or service as a commodity and it adds some novelty factor to what you're doing or removes some friction to the process. In a situation where we used call-only ads in the HVAC market, and this wasn't what I did because I knew different, but taking over an account, managing an account for a client, in HVAC, heating and air conditioning, in other words, they were running the call-only ads. In that particular situation, they do want to see who they're dealing with because they're inviting somebody in their home. It could be a child molester. Who knows, right? So they want to go to the website and make sure they got A+ BBB, rating, whatever, and then call. So if you're just trying to get people to call, it's not what people want in that situation. So you have to weigh, what do they want? Not only in your market, but on maybe even a keyword by keyword basis, because sometimes I've actually ran call only in certain keywords and then non-standard ads in the rest. Maybe call only for the warm traffic, and then for the super hot traffic it's search ads, and then vice versa maybe potentially. But in this case, it's all again just about click-through rate, and because high click-through rate means cheaper cost per click, and you only have so much margin. And in this particular case, the HVAC, it was a lazy way of doing it. They just did that, and then because the client just says to themselves, I just want calls. Well, that's all nice and dandy and everything, but so does everybody else you're competing against. And there's no shortage of people saying that they can do this. So what is you going to do that's your edge that's going to get over on these people? And so that was one situation where it did not work. You got about half the number of leads of sending people, in this case, to follow it up again. Like before with the drug rehab, you had to really do more than on the side of what you're doing on the phone after they call. When you send people to the landing page, well, you have to do more on the landing page in terms of how conversion oriented that page and psychologically pleasing it is in order to beat people then as well there. Not only because not using the call only ad is the better way of doing it anyway, and that's what people want anyway, but on top of that, you also still do the landing page better than the leading competition. You look at your competition's pages and you make sure you do better, and if you don't know how, you ask somebody who does landing pages and specializes in it, because that's usually what it takes to blow everybody out of the water, like for sure every time you try it, which is if you can get twice as many leads for the same cost just by spending a few $1,000s on a proper page instead of just winging it, pays for itself in a month. So there's no point in not doing it that way. I do landing pages all the time, by the way, just like that. We specialize in those here as well. But in that particular situation, then they were more likely wanted to check out the site. So we switched over to standard. The landing page is awesome, and then we still, by the time going from call only and the fact that we're doing an above average landing page then, which is not only more what they wanted, but blew everybody else's page out of the way, and basically instead of getting 2 times as much, we're now up to 3 to 5 times as much leads for the same exact ad cost. So anyway, in terms of making campaigns work, you could try to mess around with your campaigns, but really where it's at is just deciding not only what is the offer you should be offering, but what format you should be offering it in terms of the package of the landing page. Much easier a lot of times to quickly get your campaigns up to snuff in terms of the ROI they should be generating. That's just a side note. Anyway, and then the last instance here, plumbing. So like the HVAC, it's the same thing. Now you would think in the plumbing space, if you've got a broken toilet, well, of course, you're just going to call the first one that you can call. But a lot of people don't recognize what plumbers do. They don't just unclog toilets. They put in new piping, all kinds of stuff. And if you're going to do, and there are a lot of expensive jobs, more than half of the jobs are expensive jobs. If you need to put, you have a burst pipe or something, for instance, that needs to be fixed after you've dealt with the initial emergency aspect of that. You want to deal with somebody who has good reviews and all that, and so therefore you got to send them to a page that's good, because that's more so what people want than that just call right away. They'll spend the time because the anxiety is high enough to make the right decision that they will invest that time and put that time in. In that situation though, going back to what I said on the previous example, there's keywords where I have a broken toilet right now and it's 10 o'clock at night and I need someone now, where you can do call-only ads, 24/7 service for broken toilets, number, bang, that works better than the standard ad. Whereas the stuff like, just trying to draw my mind on the exact keywords, like broken pipe repair. That's type of keyword in general is just what I'm going to say there, is a situation where you send people to the landing page that has then now all your reviews on it and so on and so forth there. And every testimonial, so on and so forth, which a good landing page should have. But then in general, it talks about all the different scenarios, different markets where I've tried these in, where it works, where it does not. But just to sum it up again, is there an opportunity to give yourself an edge using it? And you should actually analyze if it is. Are you reducing friction? Are you able to do anything else with the call-only ad that the standard ad won't do for your customer? And if you're not sure, you test it. Of course, you don't have to be an expert to test it. Just give it a try. You may surprise yourself. But if we count all markets, local, national, everything, it's about 5% of the time I'm using call-only ads. So it's a unique situation where I can actually clean up with it. But, out of the 200 accounts that I've worked in and with the last 7 years, only had a small handful, maybe 5 or 10 where we use call-only, and that's it. So anyway, that kind of spells out everything about these call-only ads, when to use them, when not to use them. If you enjoyed this video, I have a lot of other videos just like this on this channel, so I'd appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing. I also, on guaranteedppc.com/blog, which is our company site, I have step-by-step instructions on how to set up call-only campaigns there, specifically on a specific article if you want to see that. And of course, if you have any questions about your particular market, will it work, will it not work, before trying it out, or you tried it out and you had any questions, didn't cover anything that you thought I should cover, leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to help you out. I will get back to you on that comment in the comment section.